Hello, mysterious person behind the screen, and welcome back to our ongoing series of Doctor Who audio commentaries. I'm once again joined by Isaac.
Hello.
And this time we are doing one of the most acclaimed stories in the show's history, Genesis of the Daleks, onto the Fourth Doctor now. So we're watching the Blu-rays, and without further ado.
If you'd like to sync this up with the Blu-ray copy of Genesis of the Daleks, go to Play All, put the episode count to 0, and press play in 3, 2, 1, go. So this story, it's alright, innit?
Yeah, it's not one of my favourites.
Yeah, I think, don't think it'll go down as a classic anytime soon.
No.
Obviously, we're kidding.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I actually think this was my first classic Doctor Who DVD.
Yeah, for me it was my second, because Earthshock, that was definitely my first one.
Ah, okay.
Mainly because it had the Cybermen on it,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
ironic, because for that story JNT wanted the Cybermen to be a secret.
Yeah, and they're right on the cover, aren't they?
Yeah, and because I wanted the Dalek story, this seemed like the obvious choice, and because funnily enough, I watched Little Britain before I watched Doctor Who. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And obviously, yeah, you had Tom Baker's narration on it, so I wanted to see him as the Doctor.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. It's I think I can't remember what came first. It might have been. It was either this or the DVD files version of the Five Doctors. It was one of those two, but yeah, I think it was probably this one.
Yeah, this was my second classic. So if there's ever a Shaun of the Dead moment where I have to fight off zombies, don't throw this one, because I'm going to say that was the second classic Doctor Who I ever bought. So right from the start, you get the tone of this story down perfectly, because you see a load of soldiers being gunned down.
Yeah, absolutely horrific imagery.
The original opening was going to be the Time Lord giving the Doctor his mission in a garden, of all places.
Oh.
And yeah, honestly, because it's on the making of documentary, and it's one of the things that Philip Hinchcliffe wanted to change. He said, well, why do we need to waste time here? Let's just kick things off immediately with the mission. Just have the Time Lord say, you're already here, this is Skaro.
Yeah.
And yeah, and honestly, being given that mission in a garden, it kind of reminds me of one of the Peter Cushing movies, because the first movie starts at his, I presume, what is his house, and then they go to the garden, and the TARDIS is there.
Yeah. I love that moment when the Doctor's like, I won't do it, whatever it is, I won't do it, and the Time Lord just goes, Daleks, and he's immediately like, oh, what about them? Like, he's immediately interested now that they've mentioned Daleks. I think it's a really cool moment.
And yeah, with the Doctor's exile lifted, the Time Lords still need him to do missions, and what we've got here, coming up here, we've got the Time Ring. It's pretty much the same thing as the fluid link in the first Dalek story. Without that, they can't get back to the TARDIS.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing, because this is obviously quite a big retcon in a lot of ways of the Daleks' history by Terry Nation. It doesn't completely disregard everything that we thought we knew, but it definitely gives a sort of alternative point of view, I think.
In fact, I saw the most pretty insane theory saying that the Doctor did interfere with history even though he didn't prevent their creation, and that's the presence of Davros, because obviously this is the first story to have him, and every story after this has Davros in it, so the Doctor may have caused an endless Dalek civil war.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because his actions in different time zones and timelines, they will obviously impact the future, so...
And according to Russell the Davis, this is the first this is what started the Time War, isn't it?
It's the seed that got planted that the Time War kind of grew out of, isn't it? Yeah.
And also, I think he's also mentioned that when the Daleks plan to duplicate the Doctor and send him to assassinate the High Council, I think he's argued that also set the seeds for the Time War as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you see kind of the seeds are being planted, that where it would go and everything, and yeah, that gun there is from Galaxy 4, I think.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And right from the start already, the world building is great because you've got a war of attrition that's going backwards, so it tells you everything you need to know how long this war's been going on for, and the fact that they've started with the highest tech and have degraded as a society.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's and I mean, Tom Baker in this is his first season, but you wouldn't know it.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I don't think a Doctor's had a Dalek story this dark, mature, or complex in their very first season.
Yeah. And his performance is just... He's fully settled in. Like, there's no... Some Doctor's first seasons, you can tell that they're kind of still trying to settle into the part. Tom Baker, none of that. He is fully there from moment one, really.
Well, this was filmed after Revenge of the Cybermen, so... Yeah, this was the 5th one he filmed,
yeah.
And it is interesting with season 12, well, Terror of the Zygons as well, how closely connected there are, so that there isn't really room, from Robot to Terror of the Zygons, there isn't really room for additional stories because they all carry on from one another, which they haven't really done since probably the Hartnell years, and it was an interesting thing to do with a new Doctor.
It was, yeah. It's a very 60s thing, isn't it? Because so many of the songs were linked back then. And
yeah, season 12, we don't even go inside the TARDIS. It amazes me that the first time we see the 4th Doctor inside the TARDIS is Planet of Evil.
Yeah, which is nuts. That is absolutely nuts. Was the set still there?
It might have been, yeah, I think so, because the last time we see the 3rd Doctor inside it is Death to the Daleks.
Yeah, but even then, the Pertwee TARDISes, they change from appearance to appearance, didn't they? One week it'd be massive, the next week it'd be tiny in there. And, yeah.
And again, we're already in danger because the Doctor's standing on the landmine. I just love the calm way he says it. Harry, I'm standing on a landmine.
Yeah.
Let's sort it out, please.
Well, again, it's the perfect thing of, like, only Tom Baker could do a moment like that, isn't it? It's just so Tom Baker.
And of course, with season 12, they were unsure what the new Doctor was going to be like. And it may seem hard to believe now because of how iconic Tom Baker became, but a lot of actors thought that following John Pertwee would have been career suicide. In fact, I think a lot of actors turned it down because they didn't want to follow John Pertwee. They think we can't match up to him.
Yeah, John Pertwee had become so ingrained into the consciousness, isn't he? It was such a... yeah, hard act to follow.
Yeah. Because if you look at the 2 units, well, 3 if you count Seeds of Doom, the 3 unit stories with the 4th Doctor, with Robot, it feels like Tom Baker's coming into the unit show, but with Terror of the Zygons and especially Seeds of Doom, it feels like Unit is now coming into the Tom Baker show.
Yeah, which pissed off a lot of the cast members, didn't it? From the Pertwee era.
Yeah. Because if you look at Seeds of Doom, as much as I love that story, Unit has practically become... they're practically just a generic army by that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was like John Levine and everyone, they wanted a proper send-off for those characters, but that never happened because, Tom Baker had such a larger-than-life presence that they just got phased out, really, didn't they? It was just a slow phasing out.
It was, yeah. It's amazing how with Unit they came in with such a bang, but they kind of went out on a whim.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And this is great as well. The dead being propped up to have a part to play. I'm sure that might have been a World War One thing as well.
It's very it's quite the this is the story that I think really solidifies the Nazi imagery for the Daleks, isn't it? It's so bathed in World War imagery, and it's pretty close to the mark, I think.
And funnily enough, the Khalid soldiers here were written to be as young as 15 in the original script, but Philip Hinchcliffe felt that was too strong. I mean, it's a common thing to assume that Philip Hinchcliffe, he did push for darker things, but I'd argue with Bob Holmes, he was kind of the moderator, the one who had to restrain him. Because, I think in Seeds of Doom, there was plans to have Harrison Chase, be crushed in the compost thingy, and you'd hear... Originally, we were going to hear bones crush and blood splatter on the Doctor's face.
Oh, God. Well, there you go. Yeah. It's like you say, Hinchcliffe was very he controlled all that. He got it to an appropriate level, I think, as much as people like Mary Whitehouse would disagree. He got it to an appropriate level, I think.
I mean, Elizabeth Sladen said those who would be upset by Doctor Who would be upset by anything.
Yeah.
That's depressingly accurate today. But yeah, I like how the Khalid soldiers are so young. Just shows how desperate they are and how long this war's been going on. Yeah,
absolutely. It really brings it home, and they never dwell on it either. What's great about it is they never really they never feel the need to signpost it, but it's there, and I think that's brilliant.
And I think lines like "When I'm done with these two, they'll be hanged, not shot." That feels like a Robert Holmes line.
Yeah. And I mean, come on, like that salute there that they do, and the uniforms, and the gun,
blatantly Nazi. Yeah. So it's definitely the story that's the most open about the Daleks, what the Daleks' inspiration for. Probably, and I'd say the first Dalek story is probably up there as well. The ones that are most open about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like you said, this one make minor changes to those uniforms, and that's a Nazi there with the same gun and the salute and everything. It's so obvious.
I mean, in some scenes you can see an iron cross that Nyder is wearing. Yeah. And if you took Raven's dialogue here and put it in a ring modulator, it would sound very similar to a Dalek.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't feel out of place if a Dalek was saying it.
Especially when he says, "Our battle cry will be," all that. That's very Dalek. And although this is called Genesis of the Daleks, it's not really the Daleks' story, is it? It's Davros's story.
Yeah, definitely. It could have been called Davros, and nothing would have changed. But because as a kid, when I watched this, I remember being a bit bored by it. Yeah, I didn't fall in love with it instantly because
Same.
I had no idea what this story was about. I had no idea who Davros was, so I just wanted to see Daleks do Dalek things, and you're not really going to get that here. So I think I probably preferred Resurrection of the Daleks to this, but obviously growing up you realise just because they're not on screen as much, it doesn't mean that it's a terrible story.
I don't think it's a good introduction to a child for classic Doctor Who.
I'd probably say that.
Because, like I say, it was probably my first classic Doctor Who story, and it put me off for a while, just because it kind of... to a kid, it's quite dry, isn't it? And there's nothing there to keep me going back. Then I watched The Five Doctors, and I enjoyed that a lot more because it's so colourful and everything. And I know a lot of people do say this is a great introduction to classic Who. and I would agree if this person was older. I think for kids it's a bit...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I had to introduce Classic Who to a kid, I'd probably something like Pyramids of Mars or Earthshock would be great for something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the Five Doctors as well, because although you don't get the impact of seeing all these people together, you get a taste of the first Five Doctors, and you get a really cool taste of what their personalities are like. And and you see all Daleks and Cybermen and the Master and everything. It's quite a who's who.
Yeah, the DVD for this was great because you had the making of documentary, which was really good, and the Dalek tapes, which for me it was like heaven because it was every Dalek story talked about, and it's just so sacred to see those little clips that I didn't have from stories that I didn't have on DVD yet. And annoyingly, they didn't put it on the season 12 Blu-ray.
Yeah,
what the hell?
I was going to say it's not on the Blu-ray, is it? Yeah, which it's the one big missing thing from the Blu-ray, and I guess they're going to put it on another release because it would be weird if they just left that one out.
But the thing is, it's closely related to this story because you've got, obviously they're playing it up, but you've got Davros listening to someone tell him about the history of the Daleks on a tape, like the Doctor does here later in the story. So
yeah,
it's so silly. It's like putting a making of documentary for Seeds of Doom on a DVD about Paradise Towers.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it gets put on the season 1 Blu-ray.
It could, yeah.
But
or maybe season 25 for the last classic Dalek story.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it would be weird if it doesn't get included at all, because that is the one big omission, I think, because the Blu-rays have really made an attempt to get everything from the DVDs together. So,
I mean, I hope. I've heard talk that there might be an extended cut of the Dalek tapes out there, and I hope that's true because once they get to Remembrance of the Daleks, no one talks about it. They just say, Davros and the Daleks were last seen attempting to steal the hand of Omega. Whether Davros survived or not is yet to be seen. And that was the last appearance. Seriously, that's all they talk about on Remembrance of the Daleks, and that is a shame.
It'd be cool if they did an updated one to have maybe the new series covered as well.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Speaking of the season 12 Blu-ray, wasn't this one of the ones with dodgy discs? I think this was one of the first that needed replacing.
I didn't get the first release because I missed out, but I heard it was the Sontaran Experiment and Revenge of the Cybermen that had issues on them, which I've not seen any so far because I think they corrected it for the second edition when it came out last year.
Yes,
yeah.
I was going to say.
I'm glad they're now. I'm glad they're doing the standard editions for Doctor Who on Blu-ray now because because if you don't pre-order it, then there's no chance you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Which obviously not a lot of people can do that because of money and finances. So I'm glad that a lot more people can now relax and say, well, if I don't get the limited edition, I can just get the standard packaging.
Yes.
In fact, some people say they prefer the standard packaging.
Yeah, exactly. I very nearly missed out on season 24 because I couldn't afford it, and then it got delayed, and I was like, oh, thank God, I'm going to grab the pre-order while I can. But yeah, I've seen the standard packaging, and it seems more sturdy than the limited edition ones, because as gorgeous as the limited editions are, the actual construction of them, you do kind of sometimes feel like they're going to fall apart in a way. But well,
I know season 18 and season 10 are coming out, I think, in July.
Yeah, they're doing 2 at a time, which is good. I think eventually they'll catch up to the limited editions, and maybe they'll release them simultaneously.
Maybe, yeah.
Which is cool. But yeah, I think I've got the original discs on my shelf somewhere in cases, like the ones that had issues on them. And yeah, I think, I'm not sure if it's this one or another one, but Michael Wish's name is misspelled on one of the end credits. I think it.
Okay.
Yeah, is it Revenge of the Cybermen maybe, or yeah, it might be. But the S was an A for some reason, so it was Michael Whittaker. So yeah.
Peter Miles' Snyder is so scary in this.
Yeah, he's a
Just
brilliant.
that blank stare. He barely raises his voice, but he's still so scary. And
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to him, but he does look like a Nazi.
yeah,
I know that sounds really bad, but he's got that kind of. He looks like he could play a Nazi in like an old war film or something.
Well, he was when he wasn't acting. Peter Miles was a jazz musician of all things.
Yeah. He was, by all accounts, he was a very nice guy.
He was no stranger to playing a villain in Doctor Who, because previous year he was Professor Whittaker in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, and he was in Doctor Who and the Silurians as well.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah. I always forgot about that. Yeah.
Obviously, Philip Hinchcliffe didn't really want to do stories that had old villains in it, because he wanted to put his own mark on the show. I do find it a shame that he never saw the potential of the Cybermen, because they could have easily have done a story about body horror and things like that.
It would have been awesome, especially like it could have been real. I mean, we got Revenge of the Cybermen, which is it's a story. It's a story. Reminds me of Mr. TARDIS's Blu-ray unboxings. The cursed Revenge of the Cybermen disc.
I mean, was season 12 cursed? Because Sontaran experiment, Tom Baker slipped, fractured his collarbone, nearly passed out, had to be taken to hospital, and there were genuine concerns that he might not recover, and they may have had to reshoot Robot with a new actor playing the Doctor, and bits that they'd done for the Sontaran experiment. And I think it was Philip Hinchcliffe's first day on the job.
Bloody hell. Can you imagine what that, like, how that would have gone in like Doctor Who history? Oh yeah, we had this one guy playing him for a bit, but then he hurt himself, so we reshot it all. That would have been mental.
Yeah, the reveal of the Dalek here is perfect.
It's really well done. And especially because Sarah's met them before as well, it works so well.
Yeah, and the music helps. At least it's not
Bwom.
And the first time they've added a ray effect to the Dalek gun.
Yes, yeah.
It feels weird for the Dalek design. They went from being grey in Day and Planet of the Daleks, then silver and black, and now back to grey again. And then they've got a lighter shade in Destiny of the Daleks. Make up your minds.
The ever-changing Dalek colours. It's a great cliffhanger though, like, now we can begin. Like, it's a really cool.
Yeah, it's a perfect introduction of Davros as well, and Philip Hinchcliffe made it clear to David Maloney, when a Dalek comes on screen, make it count, because don't have it just be a pepper pot trundling across the floor.
Yeah.
Make it count that this is an evil, deadly machine, and they certainly do.
Yeah, I mean, I know we just joked about the music, but compare all this to Death to the Daleks. It's just, there's no... there is no contest, is there?
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of people obviously argue that Destiny of the Daleks is a huge downgrade from Genesis. Obviously I agree, but I don't mind Destiny of the Daleks.
I've only seen it the once, and that was about 7 years ago. So I don't remember a lot of it, but I don't remember enjoying it, put it that way.
I mean, if you can't remember it, I'll just remind you by saying it ends with the Doctor trying to teach a race of robots rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Funnily enough, there was no reprise for the cliffhanger, it just carried on.
You're right, I hadn't noticed that. Yeah, that's quite surprising, actually. It's a great use of CSO there with the windows and like the dome and that. It's really nicely done.
It is, yeah.
Really good stuff, actually, for the time.
And also, you speak to quite a few fans, they do... I've not heard anyone try and pick apart this story and say, it's good, but this. In fact, the biggest criticism I've heard is that it's implausible for a planet to be completely irradiated by two cities having a war that are so close to each other.
Yeah, and I mean... yeah,
I can see that. I mean, it's like York and Lancaster having a war and it devastates the entire Earth. Wars of the Roses Part 2.
That's a good analogy, actually. I mean, I guess the clam...
oh yeah, the clams.
Yeah, that's another thing. But that's more of a production thing. Like, in concept, I don't think that's too bad.
Now, Spider-Man fans will be happy to know that James Ashton, is that how you say it? Who designed Spider-Man's costume for the Sam Raimi trilogy, designed the Fourth Doctor's iconic coat, hat and scarf.
He did indeed. What a cool and absolutely mental fact that is. That's just... Those are two things that you just do not fit together in your mind.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but I think this story might hold the record, not counting new series episodes, because that's a field altogether, of the one being repeated the most on TV.
You could be right there, because there's an omnibus version, isn't there? I think on the Blu-ray.
That was shown at Christmas of all places, 1975.
Happy Christmas! Yeah. His Nazis and death and genocide.
Yep. 1975, 82, 93, and 2000. So yeah, Stu Gaff put it best. Chances are this will be your first story, mainly because of all the repeats.
Oh yeah, most likely. I always like looking at the like when I was watching the Demons the other day in my marathon. It was the a few weeks ago now. They have the continuity links from the repeats on the disc, and it's always fun just to looking at from 2004 the announcers announcing classic Doctor Who. Obviously at that time Doctor Who was obviously quite obscure in the public consciousness because it was the wilderness years and such, and it's always fun to look at that stuff.
The last classic Doctor Who I remember being repeated on TV was The Face of Evil in 2012, 2013, and that's a pretty random choice. I don't get... It was on BBC 4, and I don't get why they chose it, because... It might have been 2012, because it definitely wasn't an anniversary year, it wasn't in tribute of anyone who had died.
Was it... Did they... In 2013, didn't they show An Unearthly Child on BBC 2?
I think it was BBC Four. They showed that obviously for the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
But and I remember 2011 they did show the Hand of Fear, but when Elizabeth Sladen passed away.
Oh, cool.
And it seems like a really odd story, The Face of Evil. But I remember 2008 in fact, I think it was the same day Partners in Crime debuted. They showed on BBC Four the first Dalek story in memory of Verity Lambert.
Yes, they did. Yeah, it was a very nice touch. They did that. I remember that.
That was the first time I'd ever watched the first Dalek story.
I don't think I actually watched it. I remember it happening.
I can remember watching the first 3 episodes, but I didn't catch the last 4.
Yeah.
But I'd actually seen the movie first.
Oh, really? Well, actually, for up until a few years ago, classic Doctor Who had a massive presence on the Horror Channel.
It did, yeah. That was before Series 8 came out, and
it was, yeah.
Yeah, the season 22 episodes were shown in 25-minute episodes, leading to some really odd cliffhangers. Where'd you get this from? Yeah, they were.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like this from Attack of the Cybermen. Where did you get this from? The Cryons. End credits. Such peril.
Oh, God.
Or like this from the 2 Doctors. The Hacienda. It's this way.
To be honest, every time I turned on the Horror Channel, it was either Terror of the Autons or the Pirate Planet. It was just okay. I always seemed to catch one of those two and like nothing else. It was very rare that I'd see anything else on there.
Of course, before Series 11 came out in 2018, we had Doctor Who on Twitch.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Because it gave birth to that London 1965.
I loved that. They should do that again. They really should do that again. I think that was an amazing thing.
Definitely, yeah.
Because it was just fun, like, not even watching the episodes, it was just fun looking at the chat of people who'd never seen them before.
Definitely.
It just brought everyone together, and the memes and everything. The fact that... I don't know if you remember this, but when they did the 4th Doctor, they had one trailer at the start, and everyone was disappointed because there were no memes in it. And then about halfway through, they replaced it with a second trailer, and it was just all random lines of dialogue that sounded like memes. So it started off with him going, "I wouldn't even say no to a salami sandwich," and then it just carried on like the most memey lines from this era. It was so obvious that they'd done that as a response.
Now, Jack, a YouTuber called Jack W. Coughlin, who lives in Australia, hi Jack if you're watching, he has done a video of this where he's replaced the Grey Dalek design with the Dead Planet design, and it's a really good update.
Yes, I think I've seen that, yes. It works really well. Really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael Wisher as Davros is just perfect casting. It was great that they got someone who had previously voiced the Daleks to voice their creator, because you can see where the Daleks get their voice from.
Yeah, it was a stroke of genius, really. And I love Terry Malloy as well, but I think this is the best voice. Like, this is the best Davros ever sounded in the classic series, and ever looked. I would argue as well.
And he's probably the most scariest, because obviously this Davros is famous for his ranting, but a lot of the time when he's quiet, it's also really scary. Like when in the next episode when the Khalid leader's saying, "You're going to have to shut all this down," it's just like, be difficult, but I can get it done. And obviously he's basically just saying, "I'm going to totes fuck you up." It's a great performance. I never know whether I prefer him or Julian Bleach, because I think they're both fantastic. Yeah, well, funnily enough, I think for the Stolen Earth, they were thinking of asking Terry Malloy to come back.
Oh, really? That would have been cool. Julian Bleach, I think, is so...
He is really good.
Everyone loves him, but also he's underrated, I think, because people don't talk about him enough, I think.
Have you listened to any of Davros's appearances on Big Finish?
I actually haven't. No.
Well, I definitely recommend Davros,
Yeah.
the story, and also the Juggernauts. That's a really good one.
I've
So,
heard. Yeah, I've heard good things
the
about
Juggernauts,
Davros.
I've not listened to that one, but the Juggernauts, it's basically it is basically Revelation of the Daleks, but with mechanoids instead of Daleks.
Oh.
Though the Daleks do appear in it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Davros, the story from 2003, it's really good because it shows that you can write a Davros story without the Daleks.
Yeah, that's the that's part of that trilogy, isn't it? Of Master, Davros, and Omega.
It is, yeah. To celebrate Doctor Who's 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
Also, what's happening with Big Finish? They're not doing the main range anymore.
No, they're just doing like box sets now and special releases, I think, which is it's interesting because my well, you know Gav from Vorp, he got the last monthly range CD, and the reversible cover is in the style of Sirens of Time.
Oh,
it's
nice.
really cool. It's a really nice, like, because the last story was called The End of the Beginning.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, Have they got all the surviving classic Doctors in there?
I believe it was Peter, Colin, and McGann. I think.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Sylvester was in there as well. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask him, but
I know Big Finish have been. I know this from Cynical, whose video on transgenderism in Doctor Who, which you should definitely check out if you haven't seen it, if anyone's listening.
I've been meaning to watch that.
Yeah, it's a really good video, and I think they do introduce a character or a companion, I can't remember, who comes out as transgender. And
yeah,
Cynical Who, they really appreciated that because I think they came out as transgender a few years back, or recently.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. No, I think I heard that it was it in Stranded? Maybe
that's it. Yeah, Stranded.
I thought
it's
so,
an Eighth Doctor story.
Yeah, I thought so.
I really like also how the Files are portrayed in this as well, because, I mean, chances are if you were a young kid, you want to remember the first Dalek story, but Planet of the Daleks was only 2 years ago, and they were seen as a peace-loving race, but now they're pretty much as evil as the Khalids, and it's just great writing of how war can turn anyone evil, regardless of what side you're on.
Yeah, it's a wonderful sort of thing of, like, media likes to portray war as good versus evil, and you know the virtue, you know, everyone on the good side is pure good and everyone on the evil side is pure evil, but in reality it isn't like that. There are heroes and villains on both sides.
Exactly, yeah, because in on the Khalid side you've got people like Nyder, Davros, they're obviously evil, but you've got people like Garman and Ronson who do see the wrongs of the Khalid race and try to do good. And here, you do pretty much get the average false soldier that is evil and just is pretty brutal, particularly the one that tries to drop Sarah Jane off the top of the rocket.
Yeah.
And you've also got Betten, is that her name?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, who's also good and does think of a way to trap the Khalids and the Daleks inside.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It's what I loved about the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones, but then it just became good versus evil.
Oh, did it just, yeah. Did it, all the subtlety get stripped away?
Yeah, because they pretty much started to ignore the books.
This is just like when we spoke about The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, isn't it? It's like The Last Jedi presented these kind of interesting ideas about morals and the role of everyone, and then Rise of Skywalker just goes, Palpatine!
I do really like Ian Marter as Harry. He's it's a shame he didn't stay on longer, because I do think he has a really good rapport with the Fourth Doctor, and obviously he was brought in to be the young action hero in case they cast an older actor, but that wasn't to be, because it's so amazing to think at the time Tom Baker was the youngest Doctor.
Yeah, and it's really weird. It's odd to
That's
think
so
about
weird
that.
now.
It really is odd to think about that, isn't it? And I wonder if at the time there was like the belief that they were getting younger and younger, because obviously after this we had Peter Davison.
Definitely, yeah. Sylvester McCoy said, when Matt Smith was first announced, he said, "When I heard they got a 12-year-old to play the Doctor, I was like, no!"
Oh, speaking of Sylvester McCoy, have you seen the video that's doing the rounds on Twitter of him shouting memes?
No, I haven't.
Somebody paid him on Cameo. So he's going, "TARDIS posting is sus. This is not poggers."
I mean, one thing I'm really looking forward to on season 24 is all the studio and location footage they've got for every story. Like, wow.
Yeah, God, that's insane, isn't it?
Oh, by the way, I've heard this. Recently there was the BFI screening of Dragonfire, and they showed the extended cut that'll be on the Blu-ray, and apparently, you know the part 1 cliffhanger where the Doctor's stupidly hanging off that cliff?
Yeah.
Apparently they've edited Clara in from the name of the Doctor.
Oh my God, have they?
Yeah, I don't know if it's 100% true, because some people on Twitter who went were hinting at it, and I thought, oh my God, have they really? I'll see it when I believe it, to be honest.
Do you know what?
I'll believe it when I see it.
I would honestly
If they
not
have,
mind that.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind that at all. And this is coming from someone who really doesn't like Clara at all, but that would be a really cool detail.
Yeah, because in Name of the Doctor, she bangs on the window and goes, "Doctor!" That would be so cool.
That would be really good. I can't wait for that box set. I think it has the potential to be the best one yet, because of the amount that's on there.
I know.
It's been delayed though, isn't it, by a week?
I know, I was just like, and I was having such a nice day.
Yeah.
And then I got that email from HMV saying, "Your order has been delayed."
Yeah. It's probably good for my wallet, because I think it comes out towards the end of the month, so I've probably been paid by them, but still. I wonder why it was delayed though, because surely a week doesn't, unless it's just something to do with like the manufacturing and something's gone wrong there. But
yeah, because sometimes it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, funnily enough, there's been no announcement of another box set coming out.
Yeah, usually we know what the next one is now, but I don't know.
Yeah, no news of animation either.
Well, we got the Web of Fear thing yesterday, as of recording this.
Yeah, but that was first announced in November.
Yes.
And only now they're saying when it's coming out.
What do you think of the animation on that, by the way?
I'm kind of mixed on it. It just... like... the eyes just creep me out. They look like they've got dot eyes from...
Yeah.
They look like Winnie the Pooh characters, because they have those dot eyes like dolls and teddy bears do, and it just looks really weird.
It does. I mean, I suppose it's, we should be grateful that they're not doing it on a full story. It's just the one episode, but even so.
Yeah.
I said on Twitter, it looks like the 2003 Spider-Man cartoon that they did in CGI. And that is dated at points, but on the whole, I think it still holds up. And even if it didn't, that has the excuse of being nearly 20 years old. With the Web of Fear is, I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, plus I love what Sarah Jane gets up to. It's a very Terry Nation thing to do, to split up the TARDIS crew, and obviously she leads an escape, which is further proof why she's so brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. I've got the production subtitles on, and it's just saying now, like it's interesting to think that this, because at the time so many of the past Doctor Who stories didn't exist anymore. You sort of have to wonder that the changes this makes to the backstory, I wonder if this was just, it was doing that because nobody thought they'd ever see the old stories again.
Possibly, yeah.
So
because in the first Dalek story, the Doctor says, they were descended from Dals, I believe they were called,
yeah.
But here they're called Khalids.
Yeah, that's it. It's a bit of a retcon, but
I mean, if people were asking where the hell is Yarvling, because I think he's a character from the comics.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm not 100% sure, but apparently he was from the comics and was claimed to have created the Daleks.
Yeah. I've never read any stories with him in, but have you heard the character Absalom Dark is his name, I think?
No, I've not heard of him. I mean, I've heard I've not read the book, but have you heard about John Peel's War of the Daleks continuity?
Oh yeah, that's a whole thing.
It's saying Skara was destroyed ages ago, not long after Genesis of the Daleks. They found another and just called it Anselin.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Absalom Dark is, I think, like this. He's called the Dalek Killer, and he's like a Dalek bounty hunter. I want to see that in the show, because he seems like a really
Dalek bounty hunter.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool. He's in Time Heist, actually. You know, when they have the images of like different characters pop up.
Yeah,
he's in that. It's like a drawing.
Yeah, this is brutal, because one of these guys gets shot and he's right next to Sarah. That's horrible. I like how it's shot on film. It really adds to the atmosphere.
It's really well directed, this, like the camera coming up and everything. Really good stuff.
Not a big fan of the freeze frame cliffhanger, but yeah, because the resolution kind of bothers me, because she clearly falls outside of it, and we've just seen that one of the ledges is on the inside, so
yeah,
how did that happen?
It doesn't quite line up, does it? Yeah. I mean, with the freeze frame, just play Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, and just
nothing's worrying. Yeah. It was the first time they ever used a freeze frame.
Yep, the production subtitles have just confirmed that.
Okay. Yeah, David Maloney loved using it because he uses it again in Planet of Evil and The Deadly Assassin.
Yeah.
Is this when the should we say war with Mary Whitehouse really began? The production team.
Yeah, this was. We were definitely getting to that point. It really, really took hold next season, didn't it? This was.
And season 14 was the crowning of it with Deadly Assassin.
Yeah, 12, 13 and 14 were just the years of the White House.
Yeah, my uncle does remember Mary Whitehouse. He remembers that she went on TV all the time and just called her a massive pain in the arse.
Yeah, well, even outside of
just moaned about anything.
Well, even outside of Doctor Who, like she's quite a well-known figure in British pop culture because everyone
It was
always.
Terence.
Yeah.
I think Terence Dick's jokes. And there's one thing she hated more than sex, and that was Doctor Who.
Yeah, she was a battle axe. She was.
And it did amaze me that for the Graham Williams era, they more or less listened to her,
Yeah.
because the ratings were the highest that they'd ever been at that point, so it does baffle me that they did listen to her.
It was probably just pressure, wasn't it, from up top? Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
Hey.
Because there was after The Deadly Assassin, there was a break until Face of Evil kicked off season 14, part 2, and I think it was on at 7:15, and that was the latest Doctor Who had ever been on at that point.
Yeah. Well, was it a Series 9 episode that was on like 8:10 or something?
No, I'm sure it was Series 8. I think The Caretaker was on at 8:30. I'm like,
something like.
I remember when that happened. I did that meme from The Simpsons. Won't somebody please think of the children?
Oh, I mean that was mental. That was and that was a big problem in that era. I think the scheduling changed week after week. Because
it was either before Strictly. They either wanted it before Strictly or after Strictly.
Yeah, that was the problem. Strictly kept getting in the way. I just remember and people didn't realise it was on, and that was a huge problem. That they changed the schedule every week, and that's one thing they've sorted out. I think in the Chibnall era, because it's usually in the same spot, or at least like around that, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Which is good.
Now, Stephen Yardley, who plays, forgotten the character's name. Severin, yeah. Yeah, he was in Vengeance on Varos as Arak, wasn't he?
Yes.
Where he was married to Clara's gran.
Clara's gran.
I like to think that the Doctor took Clara's gran when she was younger on a trip, accidentally left her on Varos, and now she's there watching sadistic entertainment as her domestic life.
That would... Wow. You have to think, if we were in the RTD era, we would have got a figure of Clara's nan, and it would have been on store shelves.
Yeah, just like Faceless Gran from The Idiot's Lantern.
Oh, that's
empty
the most baffling of all.
Cassandra, just...
Yeah.
As much as I like the RTD era, the merchandising was pretty stupid at points.
It was insane, wasn't
it? Particularly Battles in Time.
Yeah.
Who wanted a Duke of Manhattan card from New Earth? Or his fucking assistant?
Yeah.
Who wanted that?
Everyone, clearly. Speaking of Gav, actually...
Yeah, the most baffling...
Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, the most baffling card, I've probably mentioned this before, is Cameraman.
Cameraman.
Yeah, you probably don't even know where that's from.
Yep.
I'll let you guess.
Bloody hell. Last of the Time Lords, innit?
It is, yeah. Well, yeah, Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. I don't even think you see him on screen. You just see a camera moving around, like... Ugh.
He's literally just an extra, isn't he? Essentially. Yeah. He's a glorified extra.
I bet that extra's proud. Look at me, I'm on a Doctor Who card.
I mean, speaking of Gav, he gave me a load of his figures the other day because he doesn't want them anymore.
Oh, nice.
So I've now got 2 more Slithines and 2 more Cybermen, and he gave me the Cassandra as well. I never had a Cassandra as a kid, and he was like, "Oh, I've got 2 of them. Do you want me to bash up one of them, mate, and make a destroyed Cassandra for you?" It's just like, nah, you're alright.
Well, I know they did. I remember back in 2011, 2012, they did Davros sets, didn't they, for each of the 5 classic Davros stories?
Yes, that was cool.
And yeah, this was just 2 Grey Daleks, Davros and the 4th Doctor, and I think a mutant to go with it.
Yeah. I've got the I got a set from I think the 50th anniversary year, and they did a whole range of like Doctor and Dalek sets. So
they did, yeah.
I've got the Genesis set, which is it's the 4th Doctor and a Genesis Dalek. Yeah, the clam doesn't look great.
Just reminds me of SpongeBob, where a giant clam eats Mr. Krabs' millionth dollar. A millionth dollar? A giant clam ate me millionth dollar.
Do you know what popped into my head the other day? That episode of SpongeBob where there's just a random gorilla that turns up. And the episode ends with
What's
him...
What's a gorilla doing underwater anyway?
George, they're onto us! And he just hops on the back of a zebra and rides off into the sunset. And it popped into my head because I was thinking about the God Complex, funnily enough.
Oh, God.
And that episode where she's like, oh, the big gorilla scared me. And it's just like, bloody hell.
It's just the worst gorilla costume ever. Like, oh, who made that? Yeah. I guess they blew all the budget on the Nymon the Nymon thing.
Oh yeah. How dare blaspheme the Nymon?
Well, funnily enough, Graham Crowden was considered for the 4th.
He was, yes.
He would have been cool.
Who was it in the 90s that... Oh, the name's on the tip of my tongue. That guy David Burton, was it? Who basically got cast as the Doctor and then rode around in a car that said, David Burton, the new Doctor Who.
Yeah, I've heard that. Was that
bizarre?
I've heard that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He just drove around in a white car with that plastered on the side. Just randomly.
This other scientist here talking to Ronson, he popped up in Tom Baker's last story as a police detective.
Yes, he did, yeah, you're right, yeah. And it is interesting you speak about Tom Baker's last story there. Considering this is in his first season, it's really interesting to compare this to his last season. Like, they just seem completely different Doctors almost. Yeah, I know a lot of people have
They do, yeah,
but
yeah, season 18... Well, season 12, I'd say he's found his feet, but he's not, completely in control. But, yeah, season 18, again, he's mellowed out a bit more, because... Yeah, by season 17, I'd probably say Tom Baker was the writer, director, main actor, and also producer.
Yeah, essentially. It is interesting, because wasn't Tom Baker ill during season 18 as well?
He was, yeah. I remember Doctor Who magazine did an article about the scariest things in Doctor Who, and it put it in as a joke. Or the scariest thing ever, Tom Baker's eyes.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
As much as I don't like the Invasion of Time, when he's shouting in that, he's pretty scary.
Oh, when he shouts, you listen. Yeah. I think we spoke about it in our Pyramids of Mars commentary as well. When he screams in that.
I do like the inclusion of the Mutos because, as I think they say it in part 1, the Khalid race must remain pure. Again, themes of purity, superiority, and the idea that one race has to survive all others.
Exactly, yeah.
Terra Firma on Big Finish with the Eighth Doctor is an interesting look at Davros as well, because it's him actually turning into a Dalek.
Yes.
Because it more or less follows up on that line in Remembrance of the Daleks when the Doctor says, "So you've disregarded the last remnants of your humanity, still no improvement."
Yes, I've heard very good things about that one. Yeah.
Now, one bit of continuity I do like is that Davros loses his hand in Revelation of the Daleks, and by Stolen Earth he's got a metal one.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, it's a really nice... because they could have just ignored it.
Yeah, they could have easily.
Yeah.
And the idea of Davros basically blowing up his own civilization because they disagree with his methods, I wonder if it's taken any inspiration from the Reichstag fire with Hitler.
Probably.
Because, yeah, basically the Nazis more or less had the government burnt down because they didn't like what Hitler was doing. So
yeah, it's... I think it's so baffling that actually happened in history, isn't it?
And the funny thing is, this story, it does tend to get... The scale does tend to get smaller as we go on, because, we go from the Khalid Dome, the bunker, the Far City, and things like that. But by the end, we're practically just in the Khalid bunker. But it's a really interesting way to structure it, because it shows how fascism is so poisonous, because you end up killing anyone who has the slightest disagreement with you.
Yeah.
And at the end, the only thing that's left, apart from obviously a few Thals and Mutos, is the Daleks in the Khalid City.
Mm.
I know Davros, I think it does go into his childhood as well, and I think it goes into how Davros and Nyder met. When Nyder met Davros sounds like a rom-com.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, it's I need to... Wasn't it included in a DVD box set a few years ago? Or quite a few years ago.
It was, yeah, and I think it was when Davros obviously came back for the new series. They put all his stories into one, and quite a few of his Big Finish. I think they put Davros, the Juggernauts, and Davros in there.
Yeah.
And they did the same with the Sontarans when they came back in new series. They put them in the Bread for War box set, and I know that because I bought it when it came out.
Yeah, that's one of the few box sets that you could get all the stories individually as well, isn't it? It was you could get it in the box set, or you could get them all individually, and it's And
that box set was my introduction to the Third Doctor and the Sixth Doctor.
Oh, cool. Well, actually, then because I assume that's the two Doctors in there, isn't it? So, does that have the infamous Jim will fix it segment on it? It must do, right?
It certainly does.
Yeah, because I know that if you buy the Two Doctors DVD now, it doesn't have it on there.
It's been taken off.
Taken off, yeah, because mine has it.
Even on the on the Bread for War documentary about the Sontarans on this release, they've basically removed anything about Jimmy Savile. I think I think they talk about the Jim will fix it section about Gareth Jenkins, because I think Colin does talk about the making of it, like we had little time to rehearse and talks about the Sontarans in it. But yeah, any mention of Jimmy Savile, it's not there.
Yeah.
And for the right reasons.
Yeah, because I was surprised that... I'm always surprised that my version has it on there, because I got the Two Doctors DVD in 2013, and that was well after everything came out about him. So I'm surprised that mine still has it on there.
I highly doubt they'll put it on the season 22 Blu-ray whenever that comes out.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think it'll be on there? Yeah.
Nope. I mean, I think they'll put the Colin Baker years VHS on that.
I hope so, yeah.
And hopefully we'll get a making-of documentary for the Two Doctors, because it's actually the only story from that season that doesn't have one.
Yeah, yeah. That would be cool. Yeah.
Season 21, you could... it'd be great if they did a making-of documentary for Resurrection of the Daleks and the Twin Dilemma.
Yeah, that would be...
Because, yeah, the writer and director, they're still alive, even though Matthew Robinson now lives in Cambodia.
Yeah, no, that... I do wonder how they're going to tackle, like, seasons like that, and season 24 as well, because obviously they are seasons that share doctors towards the end, so... Especially in America, where they're labelling the box sets as... Like, this one's Tom Baker Complete Season 1.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah.
Are they really that scared of any number going past the number 3?
Apparently.
It's brilliant. It just shows you how far Davros will go, because yeah, he will destroy his own race if it means that the Daleks will succeed.
Yeah. It's so... Yeah, it's really
so
good.
And in this meeting, he's so calm about it.
Yeah.
He's also smart as well, because without giving away who did it, he then orders the Daleks to hunt down and kill the Thals, so he looks like the Avenger of the Pallid race as well.
It's smart and tactical.
Yeah, you do wonder how much of Davros was Terry Nation and how much was Robert Holmes.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that nobody sort of... yeah, I don't know.
Because, yeah, obviously his first pitch for this story was a Dalek story that was very similar to the previous two. They pointed it out, and I think it was Barry Letts who said, why don't you show us the genesis of the Daleks?
Yeah.
And that moment there where he clubbed those guards' heads together, that feels like a very John Pertwee moment to do.
It does, yeah. You expect to hear, hi!
Yeah, funny enough, in a story like Seeds of Doom, it kind of makes the Doctor a lot more cold, because he just punches people with no effort or sound at all. And it's just really cold, whereas if that was John Pertwee in the Seeds of Doom, he'd go, hey! Yeah, again, the sense of geography does hurt it a bit because the entire, they say the entire planet's been devastated by war, but it just feels like they're literally across the street from each other.
Yeah,
each city.
It's unfortunate. It doesn't hurt it too much, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. The rest of it is so good that you don't mind, and
yeah.
I like how the story tricks you pretty much twice into thinking that Harry and Sarah are dead, because here you've got the Files shooting at them, and then you think, oh, if they've escaped that, maybe they've gone into the Carlid City, but they haven't. If they're in there, then they're dead. And this wasn't originally going to be the cliffhanger, it was actually going to be Davros's rant about how the Daleks will be reborn in the Carlid's ashes.
Yeah, it all got shuffled around, didn't it, in the edit?
I mean, this is a decent cliffhanger. At least it's not. Yeah. Stop! Don't move.
Stop! Don't move. that's hilarious. Again, that was the last Dalek story before this. It's mental.
It is.
The leap in quality.
I do love Death to the Daleks because it's pretty bonkers.
Oh, it's mad. Yeah.
Heck, I'm surprised there's no mention of plague in this.
Yeah.
The only hint we get is the Mutos being damaged by radiation poisoning. And the funny thing is, Terry Nation created a series called Survivors, where it's about humanity fighting against a plague, and like, Jesus Christ, did he have some kind of fetish for viruses and plagues?
Oh, probably.
What's he trying to tell us? Virus, radiation, and plague, that's what he loves the most.
He loves all that stuff. He loves it. Yeah, and that it does hurt his stories sometimes, because they're just all so similar.
Yeah. But then again, you can look at writers like Robert Holmes, Stephen Moffat, they do tend to repeat some tropes as well, like Holmes will always write a double act, and also sometimes have a disfigured character lurking in the underground, like Phantom of the Opera. Looks like he's been out drinking. I mean, have you seen Castrovalva? If you look at the end, where they're running back to the TARDIS, Matthew Waterhouse looks really green there. Yeah. And apparently, after they'd done that take, he just went round a tree and went...
Yeah, you listen...
I think he'd been partying on his birthday.
You listen to the commentary, and they just, you just see what happened.
Yeah, just from his actions there, where he's trying to stop the rocket launch, it shows how he cares so much for Harry and Sarah.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's that moment in Revenge of the Cybermen where Harry says, when Sarah's got the plague, he says, she's not got much time left, and he's like, I know, Harry, I know! Just,
you get it, yeah. It's a really well done bit of, you get every little... Yeah, like I said, you just get it. You get every bit of emotion that he's trying to,
And it may be cold, but obviously he thinks they're both dead, and he just thinks, well, I carry on with my mission.
Yeah.
I mean, it really put me off as a kid when I watched this, because obviously it mentioned the Time Lords. I thought, wait, the Time Lords were around during this time? Russell T Davies killed them off?
Yeah, that's always fun when you find that out,
Yeah, because I always thought that Last of the Time Lords, oh, so he's been like that since the very beginning, but nope.
Yeah, same. I always thought that as well.
And Ronson has the distinction of being the first person in history to be shot by a Dalek.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, they make it count because it looks long and agonising, and we cut to the other Khalids looking away or shielding their eyes.
And I sort of like to think that the reason it's so long is because these are prototypes, whereas later on they can just pew pew pew. This is just proper torturous death.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to get shot by a Dalek. Then you've got Destiny of the Daleks, where they get shot and they just look like they're having a nap.
Yes.
Then in Resurrection of the Daleks, you've got Colonel Archer going, doing that weird. He like shakes his hands, and it's so weird. The Files think obviously they're going to celebrate, but they realise when the Daleks get there that the war's only just begun, and it's it's such a great commentary on war that like there is no ending, because even if you end one conflict, you just cause another.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's almost like a domino effect, isn't it?
I'll say this: if you've never seen a Dalek story before, it is a pretty good one to tell you what their fundamentals and their ethics, or lack thereof, are like. They're creatures full of hate, no pity, no remorse, no conscience. They'll kill anything that isn't like them.
It lays everything out perfectly, doesn't it? Every single thing you need to know.
And I've noticed when sometimes the simplest Dalek stories, or the ones where the scale is pulled back, they tend to be the more higher regarded ones, like Power of the Daleks, because it comes off of each Hartnell Dalek story getting bigger and bigger in scale, and by the time you get to Dalek's Master Plan, it's them trying to destroy time, and it's 12 episodes long. But Power of the Daleks is very self-contained. It takes place in a small colony, and it's about Daleks killing people and pretending to be nice.
Yeah, and
you've got stories like Dalek in the new series, where it's just one Dalek, and it shows you that it's capable of killing anything that gets in its way.
Absolutely, yeah. And when Power comes along, when you like you say, in order, it's a really refreshing change of scale. And it's just a brilliant cutback, really, after they just reach the peak of scale, really. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great... it's just a great backstory for the Daleks, and it is their definitive one, because... Yeah, I'd argue they do have a definitive backstory, whereas a villain like the Cybermen kind of don't, because, they've had kind of conflicting origins, but... World Enough in Time more or less says, as long as humanity has a will to survive, they will always show up.
Well, yeah, because the Cybermen as a concept are different, aren't they? They are inevitable, almost, aren't they?
In the words of Thanos.
Yeah.
I am inevitable.
As long as humanity tinkers with itself, and technology. They will always be there.
Because if you look at John Pertwee's Dalek stories, they feel very much like meat and potatoes of Dalek stories, as if the Daleks have an evil scheme, we've got to stop them, end of story.
Yeah.
That's it, really. Which I do like, but this definitely has... This is probably the most in-depth Dalek story since probably Power of the Daleks.
Yeah. It's the one that... Since Power of the Daleks, it's the one that's really gotten in-depth to that character. I mean, you could argue Evil as well, but I'd argue Evil is kind of... There's a lot of...
It's a bit too messy for me, to be honest.
Like, Evil, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense in it. The whole thing is we've got to use the Doctor to determine the human factor. So they know that he can change appearance, and they know that he has a time machine, but they don't know that he's not human. Like, that's just weird to me. It just makes no sense. It's really odd.
And also, they need... Obviously, they're taking the human factor from Jamie when he goes through his mission, but the problem is they need him to succeed, because otherwise they can't determine what the human factor is.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so it's just it's a circle.
Just imagine, imagine the Doctor watching on those cameras. Oh my giddy aunt, Jamie's dead. Oh. Well, back to the drawing board.
Yes.
Let's start by luring the Doctor from an airport to a field, to a petrol station, to a warehouse, to a coffee bar, to a antique shop, to a 1866, and then to Skaro.
Evil would be incredible if it was cut down and streamlined and just had another draft.
Yeah, because the plot literally does not start until about 35 minutes in, when that Dalek comes out of the cupboard and says, basically gives out the entire plot of what they want. It's amazing looking at the 2003 40th anniversary poll. Evil of the Daleks came 8th, I think.
Jesus Christ, that is...
Yeah, above Inferno and The Web of Fear. That's insane.
It's very overrated for me.
Yeah,
it really is.
Probably me as well. This story always seems to come number 3 as well. 2009, it came number 3. 2014 again, number 3, but it was the for 2014 it was the highest rated classic series story.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I mean the DVD that I had as a kid, it's got a massive sticker on the front saying #1 story ever.
Yeah, I think that might have been from 1998, something like that.
I think so.
I'd love to see another poll done by Doctor Who magazine, considering we've had now the Capaldi and Whittaker era.
Yeah.
To add. Wasn't Dennis Chinnery? He was in The Chase, wasn't he?
He was, yes. Now, who did he play in that?
I think he's on the Mary Celeste when the Daleks are on the ship. I swear he's that sailor who goes, no, and jumps over the ship, and that Dalek goes after him going,
when the Dalek is surprised that it drowns in water.
Yeah.
When it's surprised that
there is no one on the vessel. And he's in the Twin Dilemma, famously enough.
Yes, yeah.
And I like, we're about to see here, you think Nida is going to be on Garman's side, and you do think it is going that way because of stories like Day of the Daleks, Evil of the Daleks, Power of the Daleks Master Plan, and where they have human servants and they eventually just get betrayed and killed.
Yeah.
But or they see the error of the Daleks' ways and turn against them. But here it does not happen at all.
No, yeah.
It does happen at the end, but Nida is still loyal to Davros till the very end. And I think it's great for Davros they got Peter Miles back to play him.
They did, yeah. I do need to listen to that. It's just sort of the time, really.
Yeah, I only tend to listen to their first 100 stories mainly because they're so cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
They're about £3 each.
I mean, those first 100, I think, are all on, or at least the first 50 are all on Spotify as well. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Again, Garman is lured into a false sense of security. I think it's great because it makes sense he would trust Nida because obviously Nida is the closest to Davros, and when he believes him saying, "Oh, he's gone mad, he's a megalomaniac," makes perfect sense why he trusts him.
Yeah, exactly.
Here come the clams again.
Do you know what? They're not in it as much as I remembered, to be honest.
That's literally the last time you see him. Oh, well, it's like judging the towns of Weng Chiang by the giant rat.
Sorry, yeah. And even that was fixed with the old CGI.
I suppose a lot of people give the Merca flack from Warriors of the Deep because it's on screen a lot longer and it's clearly a pantomime horse, and it's in bright light as well, so you can see every single agonisingly fake detail.
It's the woman who tries to karate chop the fucker.
Yeah,
It's hilarious.
I'm sorry, what was that? I mean, that story came very close to being cancelled.
Yes, yeah, it's the one that's always
it should
mocked.
have been. Yeah, that's the thing about Warriors of the Deep. You can't even laugh at how silly and ridiculous it is because it takes itself so seriously.
Yeah.
It's just such a depressing and grim watch. I mean, I do wonder for season 21, could they update the Merca? But I don't know if that'd be too hard.
It might be a bit too hard because the character's actually physically But then again, the rat does in Talents of Wen Chiang. I don't know. It'd be quite.
Yeah, that looked pretty good.
I guess because the Merca is in bright light.
But then again, the lighting was. Yeah, the lighting's very different. Personally, I'd rather see updates to Resurrection of the Daleks because it's like someone couldn't be asked to add any laser effects to those guns. I mean, there's definitely no laser effects, or is it just my DVD copy that keeps haunting me because no one else seems to bring it up?
You got the special edition, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's pretty sure it's all fine. I know that some of the original releases, like Remembrance of the Daleks, they missed off the original effects on the original DVD.
I think so, yeah. Now a bit dodgy there. When he gets hit there. like how Davros is just, he knows there's a plot against him, but he doesn't rant like a lunatic, because he knows that his ace in the hole is obviously using the Daleks.
Yeah.
Now, coming up here, there's, obviously it's the Doctor telling Davros all about the Dalek defeats. Apparently there's an edit on YouTube where someone dubs over the Fourth Doctor and basically goes through every Dalek story and tells them the real defeat.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think Gareth Roberts dubbed it.
Oh, God, not him.
Yeah. Here's a fun fact about Resurrection of the Daleks. When he sees the TARDIS, he says, "You must secure the TARDIS for me." Fun fact, in this story in Destiny of the Daleks, he never sees the TARDIS. I mean, he knows the Doctor can travel in time, but I don't think he ever mentions that it's called a TARDIS. Bit of a plot hole. Or I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder. Plus, I love this, it's perfect salt in the wound, because obviously the Doctor says, why not make the Daleks a force for good?
Yeah.
And he's basically saying, I could do it, but I won't.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that he takes the time to go over to the Doctor just to say that as well, just to taunt him.
And also in subsequent appearances for Davros, he's always wanting to improve the Daleks. And I do wonder, is it down to the Doctor telling him about all the defeats that make him think that, like, oh shit, so they're not perfect, I need to find a way to make them the most perfect killing machine ever.
Yeah.
Also, you're probably never going to unsee this, but I saw a YouTube comment that said, the back of Davros's chair looks like someone's sticking up their middle finger.
Oh my god, it does. Oh no.
You can't unsee
I
that
can't
now.
unsee it.
I think one thing we should talk about as well is the lighting. It's really atmospheric in this. The lighting is kept just perfect.
Yeah, we spoke about it last time in the Paladin commentary, but it's very good. Yeah, it's the similar thing where the lighting and the direction is just it's kept under control, unlike a lot of stories later on.
Yeah. I mean, earlier in the season you did have the arc in space, which was quite brightly lit, but I'd argue that worked to its advantage.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, here it's done just perfectly. Imagine if he got up to the parting of the ways. Daleks were defeated by an android resembling Anne Robinson. It blasted them back to the Dalek spaceship. In 1930s New York, the Daleks became truly insane and started inserting humans into their anuses. The Dalek hybrid was then shot down.
What a sentence.
Yep. apparently in rehearsals, Michael Wisher, before he got the mask, he put on a paper bag on his head, put eye holes and a mouth hole in it, and that's how he acted as Davros during rehearsals before they got into studio.
Difficult to take seriously.
Yep. And apparently some kids came to visit the studio. Obviously they came to see Tom Baker, and he took them in to see Davros, and he tricked them to say, this is Davros, we bring him to life by remote control, but he's off now. So, and apparently one of the kids was trying to touch his control panel, and then he came to life and just grabbed him by the hand. Yeah, scaring the life out of him.
Shit himself.
Yep. I'll say this, as a 6-parter, this flies by.
Oh, it does, yeah. This is what, part 5
one of those
now?
you could, yeah, one of those you could easily watch in one go. Plus, there's a delicious sense of irony in Resurrection of the Daleks, because the Daleks are known for spreading viruses and plagues. Then one comes to bite them in the arse.
Yeah.
The Magellan virus. Then after that, they conveniently didn't use viruses ever again in the series, I don't think. They probably said, we've learned our lesson.
It just reminds me of the... Give us a cuddle. The Kit Kat advert.
Oh god, those
like 2001,
adverts,
yeah.
Yeah, because I'd argue before the new series came out, the Daleks, they were a cultural icon, but they were kind of treated as a joke.
Yeah. I mean,
people saying, how can you conquer the universe by not going upstairs and with a sink plunger?
Yeah, sink plunger and egg whisker. Well, Mr. TARDIS says, like, the design was outdated by the 70s. Yeah. But it just goes to show that when you write them properly, they can be absolutely terrifying.
They can be, yeah, definitely. Honestly, I think Chibnall has really done well with the Daleks, to be honest.
Yeah.
He made one Dalek all-powerful, showing you don't need an army to take them on. And, I really love the concept of the government using drone Daleks to keep the order. Yeah. One of my favourite edits is when the Doctor says, never trust a Dalek, and you cut to the Prime Minister. I do love the hypothetical virus question coming up. It's there to show that Davros is truly insane, and there is no going back from. There's no reasoning with him. So
he can't be. Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't be bargained
with. Because obviously
with.
the Time Lord.
He can't be reasoned with.
He's the Davrosinator. Dun 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 dun. Sarah Jane. Yes. Speaking of Sarah Jane, I do love that reference in The Stolen Earth when he recognises her. Perfect.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's a
and obviously Sarah's reaction when she hears his voice, because she says, "No, he's dead." She was so good in that.
She was. It's brilliant. I'm making an edit at the moment of the YouTuber Callum's Corner, and I put him as Davros. So he's like a northern comedian, and he turns on the monitor, sees Davros, and you just hear, "Hello, Doctor Who. This is how to make yourself look like a tit."
Oh god, there's a clip that went round a few years ago. It was this story dubbed in French,
Oh, yeah.
and oh god, the Daleks. It's the end where the Daleks shoot Davros, and the Dalek voices are interesting. They sound like the Absorbaloff.
Oh no!
Yeah, that whole I think this thing is my true form. That cruise ship you call a body.
This is my true form. I love that.
I would question why he suddenly has a northern accent, but then I remember lots of planets have a north.
I love the sequel they did for the Tweetalong. And it's like another Absorbaloff, like that Absorbaloff's father. And he's just like, "Doctor, it were my son, it were my firstborn, me baby. You killed him." Actually, that reminds me.
I was just going to say, like a true psychopath, Davros genuinely thinks what he's doing is right. When he thinks the Daleks are the most dominant life form in the universe, then there'll be peace. Everyone will live happily ever after. Kind of like Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith.
I was going to say Palpatine, yeah.
Once more, the Sith will rule the galaxy. Then we shall have peace.
Yeah. Yeah. A cool little oddity about Genesis of the Daleks. In America, they repeated this in the late 80s, and they spliced on the Sylvester McCoy titles, but with Tom Baker's face.
What?
Yeah, and you can see it.
That'd be interesting to see.
It pops up on YouTube every now and then disappears, but it's like the end titles and the opening titles are the McCoy ones, but they've got Tom Baker's face. Is really weird to see, and they're like full on. They're fully made and stuff. It's not just a cheap thing.
Does the Fourth Doctor wink?
No, he doesn't. Would have been cool though. I quote this a lot. Like I often go, "Yes, I would do it."
Now this switch to the Doctor presses, which Davros says it switches off my life support system, believe it or not, that is a plot point, I think, in Davros, the Sixth Doctor story. Yeah. He explains that after his accident, he was put into, obviously, this life support machine, and if he wanted to, he could end his own life.
Yeah.
So the option was always there for him, and that's so dark.
It's fascinating. Like that is really creepy. That's really dark.
The Dalek Tapes has a film critic, Kim Newman, on it, who describes Davros perfectly. He's a mad-ranting, humorless bastard. Yeah, I'm genuinely surprised that this story wasn't chosen to be the first VHS.
Yeah, I am as well. Yeah.
Then again, it did get a repeat in 1982, so maybe fans jumped on the
You never know.
bandwagon to record it. Yeah, the Czechs, Lies and videotape documentary, which is on Revenge of the Cybermen, it's such a great insight into what fans had to do in the 1980s.
It's one of my favourite featurettes they ever did. I've watched it so many times. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, it amazes me that people in Australia moaned that they got season 11 through 14 on a repeat all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sympathetic. You have my sympathies.
To be honest, the Revenge of the Cybermen DVD before the Blu-ray was probably one of the most watched DVDs in my collection, and not for the story, but for that featurette.
Oh, I've probably watched the second time around documentary about Patrick Troughton's era more than I have the Crotons. In fact, I was probably, when I bought it, I was probably looking more forward to that documentary than I was watching the Crotons.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I thought, oh wow, it may not be much, but maybe I could see some clips of lost episodes or hear audio from lost episodes or get more insight into them.
Yeah.
Dang, I was 2 days from retirement. You do feel sorry for the Dalek operators because they had to learn all the dialogue.
Yeah.
I don't think they have to now because I think someone else operates the lights. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think from Destiny of the Daleks onwards, the lights were operated by someone else being in sync with the dialogue, because if you look at that story, the lights do seem to flash quite well in sync with the voices.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
And again, Garman and the other Khalids, they have the best intentions. They want a bloodless revolution. They want it with democracy, being fair and everything. But Davros pretty much laughs at them and being like, achievement is through strength, not through democracy.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Davros he's really the standout of this story, isn't he? More than anyone else.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And in a moment, we're about to see Sarah Jane change outfits into what she's wearing in Revenge, and I wondered if they had to add that in, because they thought, oh, bugger, if we go back like that, then how do we explain how she changed her clothes? I mean, I also wonder this as well, because when they get back to the beacon in Revenge of the Cybermen, the Doctor says, oh, the TARDIS is on its way back to us.
Yeah.
So I wonder, after this mission, did the Time Lords think, oh, Doctor, could you just sort out this business with the Cybermen for us, and then we'll give you the TARDIS back? Yeah, it's so cynical and dark. They have the best of intentions, and what's their reward? They're killed for it.
It is a bleak as hell story. It is so bleak, and yeah.
Surprised Sarah Jane doesn't say, sorry, Doctor, it stopped being fun.
Yeah, she might as well. This is not a fun story at all.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the way the camera just moves into the empty room and he's just sat there tapping.
Yeah, it's
really creepy.
It's really wild. It's so creepy.
Because, like a true psychopath, he knows he's not going to lose, and he knows he's going to find a way out of this. In the words of that Dreadlocks guy from The In-Betweeners 2, I can't lose. I'm not going to lose. I don't lose. I can imagine Davros. I mean, ever since Full Fat Videos have done their their character essays on 4 and saying, hey, it kind of looks like that guy from In-Betweeners 2. I'm not going to lose. I can't lose. I can't unsee that now, because, yeah, if you look at 4's entire character across the MCU, it is literally based on the fact of him saying, I'm not going to lose. I don't lose.
Yeah.
I do remember going to Manchester, I think it was 2007, and I did see it was actually in the queue, it was in the corner like a 1975 Dalek from this story, which was really cool to see.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that museum's around anymore in Manchester, and it was really cool to see because it had all this. It didn't have any classic stuff, but it had stuff from the new series.
Yeah.
I remember the Ood weren't there because there was a sign up saying, unfortunately, the Ood costumes have been taken away for filming in the latest series of Doctor Who that will be coming out next year.
Oh, really? That's quite cool. So was that the first time you kind of knew then that they'd be back?
I think so. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I didn't have the internet, I didn't really buy the magazine, so yeah, it might have been the first time I knew that the Ood were coming back. Do you think Harry should have stayed on longer?
I think so. It would have been nice, because I think he has a great dynamic with the Fourth Doctor.
Yeah, because Ian Marter did say I think it was right to leave because I felt like I didn't have much to do.
That is fair enough, yeah. But I do think he is great. He is really good.
Plus, I like how he did get involved with the Target novelizations and writing stories that he wasn't even involved with. I thought that was cool. Because I think he novelised The Ark in Space, Sontaran Experiment, which were his stories. Yeah. But funnily enough, he novelised The Rescue, The Dominators, The Reign of Terror. I think it was Gary Russell who said it's a shame he didn't live into the 90s because he would have been a great contributor to the New Adventures range.
Yeah. Wow.
Didn't he and Tom Baker write a Doctor Who feature film together?
I was just about to say, yeah, they wrote the film together that was supposed to happen and never did. Which would have been insane. That would have been so cool. What was it called? That wasn't the Scratchman.
Scratchman. That's it. Yeah, Scratchman. Which I think Tom Baker then adapted into a book.
Yeah, it came out a few years ago, didn't it?
It's amazing how Tom Baker is 87 and he's still with us.
He's still going, yeah. Yeah, it's great to see, it really is.
I have this really weird feeling that he's going to outlive every cast and crew member of his era and be the last person standing.
He's great. He's yeah, and it was nice to see. I don't know if it was a charity thing a few years last year for COVID. It was all the doctors came together to say thank you to the NHS.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons. Yeah, that's why I watched it, because I knew all the doctors were going to be there.
I'm glad he was in it.
Of course, the Not My Doctor crowd reacted to it by saying 8 Doctors and 2 Fakes, referring to Jodie Whittaker and Joe Martin.
They'll react to anything that's even... If Jodie Whittaker went into a burning building and saved loads of babies and orphans, they'd say that she was Satan.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All she has to do is breathe and it's white genocide to them. I mean, did you see James Mangold, the film director, take apart all those naysayers on Indiana Jones 5?
Yeah, I did see that.
I just thought... I thought, you are a good man, thank you very much.
Yeah, it was sort of, I didn't...
It was a perfect comeback. It was basically him saying, I love basement dwellers telling me how to run my film. And yeah, he's got a point, he's the director, and he really shouldn't be listening to basement dwellers who think they know best.
I didn't want him to react, mostly because it'll give birth to a load of videos that are now like, I got attacked by a film director, you know.
I was personally insulted and he came in and burned down my house. Yeah. Okay, the last bit's hyperbolic, but surely you get me.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not too fond of that, but I do love the fact that he was just like, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah. Well, I know for Indy 5, already the naysayers are about saying, Kathleen Kennedy's producing it. Like, didn't she produce the original trilogy as well?
I believe she's produced every Indiana Jones thing ever.
Jesus Christ. Do these people listen to themselves? Yeah. And saying Harrison Ford's too old to do it because he's 78. I mean, I keep hearing they're gonna de-age him through CGI, and like, yeah, but
wow.
I know Crystal Skull's not the best, and quite a lot of people would like to ignore it. But how do you explain that? Has he got the Fountain of Youth and now looks younger again, or do you set it before Crystal Skull?
Well, this is all because on set there were dots on his face, like tracking dots. But I think it's a flashback because he's on the set photos, he's with Toby Jones, and Toby Jones looks a lot like the artwork of Abner Ravenwood. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's a flashback and they de-age him and it's like telling us about his time with Abner Ravenwoods and stuff. But yeah,
and honestly, I do think James Mangold is a good choice for Indiana Jones 5.
He's a good pick. Yeah, he is a good pick. I'm cautiously optimistic because I don't actually mind Crystal Skull. I think it's overhated.
I did see a meme about it on Rock Bottom the other week. It's Grandpa putting up posters of Indiana Jones, the 3 Indiana Jones films, and Marge saying, there are only 3 Indiana Jones films on that flag. Oh, be in the deep cool ground before I recognise Crystal Skull.
I mean, the thing is, though, like, everybody thinks, I've said this before, everybody thinks they're the smartest person on Earth when they go, oh, there are only 3 Indiana Jones films. It's like, when the 4K box set came out recently, it got loads of 1-star reviews on Amazon, and all of the 1-star reviews were going, why have they included the 4th film? There are only 3, and it's just like, oh my god, just please go outside.
Because here's the thing, even if they put on the 3 films and it said The Complete Adventures, you'd still be moaning that they didn't put Crystal Skull on there.
Exactly. It's just like, oh, and everybody thinks they're the smartest person on Earth when they say that as well. It's just like the joke has been done to death.
Yeah, kind of like with the Chibnall era of Doctor Who, everyone thinks they're the smartest person in the room because they find issues with it, which is fine and all, but don't act like you're clever or something, exactly. Or you're act like a smug prick.
Exactly.
I do like those mutant sound effects you heard in the chamber. I like how they were used again for Revolution of the Daleks.
Yes, I liked that, yeah. Nice bit of fan service.
I do wonder, whenever Jodie's final episode will come, will it be New Year's Day and a Dalek story?
It would be. Well, I mean, there
to
are
finish off a trilogy.
Well, yeah, there are now loads of rumours that she's leaving, isn't there? Aren't there? So yeah, who knows?
And again, just going back to the idea that this is his first season, it's amazing that he got a scene. Tom Baker, I mean, got a scene as great as this one in his very first season. It's just brilliant.
It really is. Just yeah. And like I said earlier, there's just no messing about. He's immediately the Doctor straight away.
Yeah. I do wonder if this was in Series 8 and it was the 12th Doctor, would he have been saying, "Am I that right? Am I a good man?"
Am I that right? Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant though. It really is. It's
And Tom Baker has joked, "Oh, it looks like I'm about to power a car battery." But that's the great thing about Tom as the Doctor. He could look at anything. He could take any prop or any object and have it be the most feared thing in the universe. It's on, because I think Stephen Gallagher said in the season 18 Writers' Room documentary, said Tom was one of those actors is that he could pick up a cheese sandwich and say, "This is the most dangerous cheese sandwich in the universe," and you believe him.
Yeah, he just has that power, doesn't he?
Again, Elizabeth Sladen is great because, again, she's the audience. She's saying, "We don't want evil things."
Yeah.
It's just, and it's kind of a shame Harry doesn't really have an input. He's just, again, it's kind of the problem of having him there. He's just kind of there.
He's just there for shits and giggles, isn't he?
The original cliffhanger was going to be, "Do I have the right?"
Yeah.
But again, Part 5 overran, so changed to the mutants attacking.
I think if it had been that, it probably would have been voted as one of the best cliffhangers ever, right?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I'll say this about the story: the cliffhangers are kind of
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
They literally feel like, 25 minutes are up, just end the episode. Plus, going back to Davros, he says history will show you that cooperations between different species is impossible. And of course he doesn't give any examples because he's a fascist.
Yeah.
And I think the ending is such delicious irony. The very thing Davros fought for his entire life to be the survival of his people, of his race, ends up being the one that kills him.
Yeah, it's this cruel bit of irony.
And I like what Garmin says there. He says, our race will survive if we deserve to.
Yeah.
We can't live it. It's either we live and die as creatures with a conscience, or we don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really amazing how he's willing to put the end of the survival of his species if he thinks that they can't survive. That's really powerful.
Yeah. There's so much going on this, like the powerful imagery and
there's so much layer. Yeah, there's so much layers and depth to this script. It's terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how the Daleks are shot. How often you get a shadow and then the full thing comes in. I mean, even though there's only 3 Dalek props, unlike Day of the Daleks, that's not a huge problem because obviously these are very early Daleks, so you don't have to worry about them not being that much of an army.
Yeah, and also they're all the same colour, so you can actually make it look like there's more of them. Whereas the Day of the Daleks, you're essentially down to 2 there, because the one is gold.
Yeah. I heard this from Revelation of the Daleks. Apparently the Dalek operators weren't very popular with cast and crew members.
Yes.
Because apparently they didn't like being told what to do. Apparently some of them sounded really camp. Like, one of them would say, I went through the door first in rehearsal. That's the great thing about this supporting cast. Every named character is memorable, and they've all got a role to play in the themes and the subtext. Like earlier on, Raven, who was a general way too young and eager to impress.
100%, yeah.
But it shows how. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a lot of General Hux and the First Order, because if you look at them in the sequel trilogy, it's run by a lot of young people.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you're right.
Who probably caught onto this fascist ideology from a young age and just knew about it their whole life and did their best to keep it up.
Which absolutely happens in real life. That's
Yeah, definitely.
Only a few months ago now, some guy got arrested. Like, he was training to be a policeman, and they looked into his background and they found out that he was this massive, like, Nazi. And this shit still happens.
Depressingly, yeah. I think stories like Power of the Daleks and Remembrance of the Daleks, they're great stories to show how the Daleks' presence in those stories have an impact on the characters.
Yes.
For example, saying Power, Lesterson sees them as a great scientific achievement. The rebels see it as a means to rule the colony and use them as their own police force. And in Remembrance of the Daleks, you've got the Doctor, who views them as the most evil creature ever, and the Association viewing them as an ally because they share depressingly similar attributes to purity and dominance.
Yeah. Good point.
I could go back in time, I'd do what the Doctor does to Nida here. Those tape recorders you took of 60s episodes, where are they? Down here.
I would happily save the Feast of Stephen.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's the one you've got to save. how the safe is designed as an eye. That's such a weird design choice.
It is odd, but it's also kind of it's kind of sinister in how odd it is.
But then again, Davros does have that third eye in the middle of his head. There is a reference to that.
Yes, of course, because I forget that apparently all this time his eyes were just shut. He just didn't want to open them. And of course, we got this figure for Sarah, didn't we? Of this costume.
He did, eventually. Yeah. And Harry in his outdoor coat in the Sontaran experiment, didn't we?
It was the reason it was for this costume, I imagine, was because they could repaint the Primeval figures. Yeah, because obviously Primeval was a lot of military soldiers and stuff, so it was probably easy to repaint that rather than doing like another, like the yellow coat from Sontaran experiment, for example.
Now, coming up here, the sonic screwdriver sound effect, that might be the only time in the classic series where it actually sounds like the effect that's consistently used in the new series.
Yeah. You are right, yeah.
Yeah, just, there it is,
that's really interesting. Because usually it's the
if you look at,
whistling noise, isn't it?
Yeah, like in the Sea Devils, it's like a beep beep or something like that, and... or a wow
exactly.
Something like
so the
that.
TV movie, it's the like, yeah. And I mean, you could probably write like whole books about the ideas and the themes in Genesis of the Daleks.
You easily could, yeah. Because Davros, he does, the men who are still loyal to him, he does keep those alive, but because they're not Daleks, the Daleks see them as them getting in the way of their superiority. Yeah. So obviously they have to die.
A lot of it is very Orwellian as well.
Particularly that, again, just going back to the eye in that safe, it's kind of a saying of we're watching you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that just, the way they're killed, it just looks really painful.
Screams as well, it really sells it.
Destiny of the Daleks. Flop. We did 20 takes, and that was the best one. And weirdly enough, somehow the Doctor gets his outdoor coat from the incubation chamber.
Yes.
When we've not seen it since part 1. Maybe a Carl had left it lying around. Oh, it's my size. Oh, I can remember in the early days of YouTube, you know, the Series 3 story where Dalek Khan obviously disappears. There were theories going around of where he ended up, and someone did an edit of him arriving at, like, this moment here when, I think it's when Davros says, the Dalek production line has been started.
Oh.
Who gave the order, or something like that. And it's Dalek Khan popping up.
Interesting. That must have been really early days of YouTube.
Yeah, it was. Heck, I remember seeing fan trailers for the series 4 finale like a year before it ever came out, and they pretty much just put every character from the Russell T Davies era in there, like Pete Tyler, Jake.
I mean, to be fair, it wasn't
Trying to
that
think of-
far off from what ended up happening. You have got most of the characters from RTD's era in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they say the Doctor gets shot by the Dalek here. Does he? Some say it shoots his hand, but no, I don't see
me
that.
neither. Because the Dalek, the guns and the rays, they don't really act like bullets, do they? If they hit you, you're dead.
Yeah.
It's not a case of shoot him in the leg and he'll die, and he'll be disabled or whatever. But
Surprised no one's written a theory that when the Doctor gets shot by that Dalek in Planet of the Daleks, the brief flash you see is the Doctor regenerating but keeping the same place. So technically he's the 4th Doctor.
Pertwee too.
Yeah. Right, now then, where were we? I use the regeneration energy to heal myself. I don't need to change, why would I? Look at me. Yeah, it's so ironic. He gave the Daleks such a superiority complex that he didn't think that they would stop listening to him.
Creations turn on their creators.
So I wonder, if the Doctor didn't interfere, would they have still killed Davros anyway?
Maybe. I guess it depends on how far you believe that events take their course.
Maybe, yeah, because
inevitability.
I do like Roy Skelton's Dalek voices. They're really good. Some say that he sounds a bit too much like Zippy. Have you seen that video, Dalek Zippy?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look at the mess you made. Hello. Oh, I'm not supposed to leave the house. Jeffrey said so. Oh, okay, I'll sneak out. And it's literally a Dalek going out of Dalek control. It's perfectly edited.
Reminds me of one of the old Five Who fans videos where I can't remember what story it was, but it's like a Dalek's talking, and in the background, clearly it's just a prop with no operator in it, so it's just sat there, and the video just slowly zooms on him, and we hear his thoughts, and it's like, is Crime Watch on tonight? Right, how do you spell Crime Watch? Is it one word or two? Oh, look at me, I'm getting confused and distracted. I'm such a lazy Dalek.
I remember seeing Nash review the Peter Cushing films, and he took issue with the fact that in the first film, the Dalek lights still flash despite the fact they're not speaking. Yeah. So he's probably saying, hey, I wonder, are they muttering? I swear, if they move my desk again, I will complain. I was up at 5 a.m. and I still couldn't get a damn parking space. And as this is one of my favourite Dalek lines. Pity I have no understanding of it.
Oh god, it's such a good line, and it's delivered perfectly.
So this clip is actually notable for being on, I think it was called TV's Greatest Mistakes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He points out that take a look at this Dalek. First his lights are flashing because he's speaking, now they're not. Oh, now they're fixed again.
Well, that's it. It's like that bit from The Stolen Earth. There's that shot that I'm surprised got through, where there's just a Dalek that the eye stalk light is turned off, and
then it turns back on. Yeah.
How did that get through? That's.
Well, have you seen Doomsday? How many shots are there of Dalek Sec speaking but saying something different?
Yeah.
And how many shots are there of that Cyberman falling next to a Dalek? That's Michael Bay lazy.
It's interesting that the new series is getting to the point now where production mistakes like that are just considered because, it's old. You know, it's weird to think of it as that.
Yeah. I love this ending speech as well. It's very kind of new series as well, where the Doctor speaks, where the speech is over the action, and it's atmospheric.
Yeah, really good. Notice his coat's missing there when he goes into the vortex.
It is, yeah. Oh, God.
But, yeah.
So that was Genesis of the Daleks, one of the greatest Doctor Who stories ever made. It's not my favourite Dalek story, that goes to Revelation, but this probably comes second.
Yeah, it's not one that I watch a lot. Like, I will watch it maybe every 5 years, give or take. But when I do, it's always a pleasure. It's iconic for a reason, and it's the impact that it made on the show cannot be understated, really.
Definitely, yeah. It's one of the big ones.
So that's the end of the commentary. What are we going to be doing next time?
Next time we are going into the Fifth Doctor's era, and we will be capping off his era with the Caves of Androzani. Again, another alright story.
Yeah. not too great. But yeah, look forward to that next time. And in the meantime, go subscribe to Isaac's channel, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.